Hi, welcome back to Convergence Knowledge Bytes, where we take complex business, technology, and cybersecurity topics and break them down into bite with a Y size chunks so that business owners and leaders can educate themselves and learn about how to make better decisions and moving their organization forward. Today, we have a continuation on our series around PCI compliance, or payment card industry compliance, and point of sale POS systems. And our guest again is Keith Sconiers from PaySuite, one of our partners that works with us and our clients and helping them implement right size solutions for their organization. Today's topic that we're going to be talking about is really around the misconceptions of payment processing. Prior, we talked about payment processors, did an intro, talked a little bit about interchange fees and all the things that somewhat are out of your control. But today, we're going to talk about the things that Keith hears in the industry and the stuff that we hear from people who are taking credit cards that just simply don't understand because it's never been talked about before. And so my first question for you, Keith, is this is one I hear all the time. Isn't it true that payment processors all charge the same fees? It's like, no. But why?
Yeah.
Why is that? First of all, why is it out there? Second of all, why don't they charge the same?
Yeah, everyone has a little bit of a different business model, right? In terms of Visa and MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, they all have to get paid. And so does the card issuing bank. And so those fees have to get paid. And each payment processor is going to come up with their own way of doing that or collecting those fees. So they're either going to do it by, passing through all of those fees directly to you with a separate markup fee.
Yeah.
Or they're going to offer some form of a tiered pricing where they're going to give you several different rates that your transactions can fall into. Or they're going to give you a flat rate and bill you that way. But at the end of the day, every processor is charging a markup. They just have a different way of doing it. And they also have a different set of beliefs as it relates to whether they should tell you how it works or not.
I kind of liken that to the same idea that I can get gas from, one company here and right down the road 3 blocks, 5 cents cheaper. Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, and sometimes you can go a couple miles difference, right? And it's the same exact company, same exact logo on the sign, but it's 15 cents cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. Depending on who they buy their gas from, what their market needs to be, all the different parts and pieces. And I think that it kind of goes to the point of the next question is, well, the one size fits all approach. What's the reality behind that? Like a square is a square is a square.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem with a one size fits all is that you have different needs for your business, right? Which is why we work with multiple providers, is because we have providers where they're tied to a particular sponsor bank who's holding the risk on transactions. And that particular bank might not like your industry. And so your industry may be placed in a different category as it relates to the pricing methodologies that they use. Right. And so when you're taking a one size fits all, in this case, like a Square may not be the best for your business. If you're taking cards over the phone or you're taking cards via a website or sending out invoices, those are all technically card not present transactions. And Square charges north of 3.5% for those transactions, when there's lots of companies who we work with in that with that same business model where they're paying 2.5% for their transactions, and they don't have any card present transactions. All of their transactions are card not present. And so that's where, if you're not getting a custom solution for your business, you can end up paying a lot more. But then it also comes down to, there are companies that we work with that are great when it comes to price, but the functionality isn't worth using their processing solution, because your staff is going to have to do more work. And so I think it's important to understand the levers and what goes into customizing your account, because you want the best price but you can get, but you also want that to be combined with the best features for your business model, not only for today, but where you plan on going in the next 12, 18, 36 months, because you're going to need certain tools to support your business. And it's not always about getting the cheapest option. You want to get something custom. You want to have a relationship so that you can navigate your business down this growth trajectory that you're navigating or that you're driving down or driving towards. And you need a relationship so it can be customized. You need to be able to say, hey, this is what we're looking for in the next 6 months. Can you help us? Can we start the conversations of what tools and integrations we're going to need in 6 to 12 months so that we can get ahead of that instead of making a snap decision that you're just going to pull something off the shelf that's generic and you're not going to get the result that you really want in your business.
Yeah, we see that similarly. Nearsighted versus long-term vision, right? And what do you expect? What are you trying to do? And trying to figure out a solution that will actually do well to start here, but gives you the ability to kind of go further with that and grow with it and scale with it. It's kind of why our motto came about, right? Interesting. Okay. So, which payment processor has the best rates?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
feels like it's Baskin Robbins question. What's 31 flavors? What's the flavor of the day?
Yeah. Well, it's, 80 to 90% of your fees are non-negotiable and they're not controlled by the payment processor. They're all passed back to you as a business owner at the end of the day. So it's really not about which company has the lowest rates, because they really don't. I've worked in, and here's another thing that I was taught, a myth that I was taught when I entered the industry. I went to work for the 5th largest payment processor in the country. They were a direct processor who has that direct relationship with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. And we were taught that we're a direct processor, so of course we can save you money. Well, there were resellers whose rates we couldn't beat because we had an internal methodology about pricing that was not the same methodology of the reseller. So the reseller was offering, close to zero markup, and that wasn't even possible at the payment processor that I worked at. Right.
Wow.
So when it comes to like who has the best rates, it's not really about, are they a direct processor, a payment facilitator, or an independent sales organization, or an ISV? It's really about what's the philosophy about how they believe pricing should be handled and how it should be set for merchants within your particular industry situation and volume. Right.
And it goes back to that point about who can customize what you need. Then what's your service experience going to be like?
Yes.
Because it's not always, there's this adage that, you get what you pay for, right? If you want the cheapest, you're probably going to have poor service in many cases, not all cases, but most cases, right? And so there's a trade-off for some of that. Somebody's going to have to pick up the extra load if you're getting bad service. And I can tell you that it's way more expensive to have your employees sitting on the phone or chasing these things down from an overhead standpoint than it is to have a great service provider and a partner like yourselves who can actually pick that ball up and run with it to help solve the problem. Right. Then you can literally hand that off and say, I need your help solving this, right? Delegating this to the right people who know all the lingo. The business owner, even though they're the one still paying the bill, they don't know all the right lingo. Right. They don't know all of the key terms and all the different things that go into these. These contracts are like dozens of pages long, right? I mean, I can tell you that probably nobody I know that still processes credit cards has read through the entire, structure of those agreements. They just want to see, what's my percentage? What am I going to pay? It's like there's 4 or 5 bullets that they care about most, but all the fine detail and the fine print. What do I do if something changes and now it's not the same? You know what I mean? Yeah. I've heard some people say, isn't it illegal to process over the phone?
Oh, no, it's not illegal to process
No.
over the phone.
I remember back in the old days, you telephone calls to J.C. Penney's or Sears, right, to order your school clothes. Mom's giving the card over the phone, pay with a credit card, get ready for school clothes.
Right.
But some people still think it's illegal to process them over the phone.
Yeah, I mean, like the paddy wagon's not coming to your house or your office, let's just say that,
Right.
But I think as it relates to PCI compliance, you do want to make sure that your staff knows what to do with that card information. You do want to have a secure phone system. You do want to have best practices as it relates to securing your environment so that as people are reading those, card numbers off, that if it is being written down, then it is being shredded immediately after it's been tokenized so that you're not storing full text card information in your browser or in Excel spreadsheets on a desktop, which I do see. Or, like you do want to make sure if you are taking cards over the phone that you do have a process that's PCI compliant so that you're not at threat of having a customer really upset and posting about it on Facebook if their card data gets breached. Or you don't have a serious breach and have to deal with that.
Yeah, we see this one a lot because organizations, and at no fault for doing this, right? They want to enable their customer to purchase their goods or their service, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can do a card on their website and pay for your invoice. You can do and call into customer service, right? And make a payment over the phone. But with the advent of remote work, now we have a lot of customer service people who work from home. Mm-hmm. And how are they picking up that phone call?
Yeah.
How is that network secured?
Mm-hmm.
The computer that they're on now and the phone system that they're using now are part of the cardholder data environment because the PCI compliance is very clear. It's how you obtain, transmit, and store credit card information. If you're obtaining it through a voice, your phone system is part of the cardholder data environment because if that can be hacked, then somebody can listen, right? Yeah. But then you have the other manual processes where people jot it down on a piece of paper and then they'll log into a portal. Right. They're not taking it over phone. Technically, they're logging into a portal where they can process the credit card transaction, and they wrote it down so they didn't forget it.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you have a piece of paper on somebody's desk, which could or could not be in the office or at their home. And now that computer that's on their home network, how is it connecting to that portal? Are you just opened up to your home Wi-Fi? Are you on a VPN? Do you have it secure? It just starts to span, right?
Yeah.
And so we find this one quite interesting because a lot of organizations, whether or not they believe or you should or shouldn't do it, a lot of organizations will allow customers to pay over the phone. Utilities, garbage companies, your retailer, if you call in and order online and you say, hey, something happened to my order, I need to reorder it, they'll take it over the phone for you, right?
Yeah.
But they forget the complexity of what happens with PCI compliance because that is just as complicated, if not more, than how point of sale and payment processors and transaction fees and all of that stuff works, right? The idea that you can walk to a table and hand somebody your credit card processing device. Here's your order. They have literally handed me the credit card terminal, left it on the table. And they walk away. If I'm a bad guy, who's to say I won't take a reader and slide it on the back end of that? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, just those general, what we call administrative practices, right? You are not allowed to leave a credit card processing terminal on a table unattended. Right. Those kinds of bizarre things that I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, do they know what their staff are doing?
Right.
I mean, I appreciate the convenience that they're trying to give me, but I freak out about, well, if they're doing that, what are they doing with credit card information or what else is going on in their network that I don't know about? And I'm a weirdo, right? Because I live security every day. And I live in compliance and cybersecurity every single day on behalf of my customers, and then just family and friends. I want to educate them, make sure they understand what's going on. And that's not just when it comes to payment cards, it becomes personal health information, the 23andMe bankruptcy. What are you going to do with, your DNA information? I mean, the minute that was announced, man, I had a text thread with like 12 family members on it saying, here's what you need to do. Go in, get your information, permanently delete it. Don't let that go to whomever's hands decides to buy it. Right. This is one of many sort of threads around compliance. Payment card industry is a core. That core of controls often feeds into other compliance frameworks that are out there in the world that are both consumer and business related. But the other one that we hear almost all the time when we have a conversation is PCI compliance. My point of sale company or my payment processor does that for me. They send me a scan saying I'm compliant every month. What do you mean? What do you mean I'm not doing it right?
Yeah. Well, I think what's awesome about that is that like no provider can make you compliant. No. Even when you do the questionnaire, it's like your compliance, as soon as you add a new computer to your network, you're not compliant anymore, especially if you don't have that computer documented, especially if you switch payment processors and you haven't documented that processor and all of the payment devices that are on the network that you plan on collecting, right? Especially if you don't have documentation on the serial numbers, especially if you don't have documentation on that payment processor's PCI compliance level 1 certification that you verify annually. So working with a payment processor that's PCI compliant doesn't mean anything if you're not executing on all of the requirements of PCI compliance, which, as I've mentioned in my previous videos and here, it's your responsibility as a leader and a executive leader in your business to make sure that you're actually PCI compliant. No one can do it for you. They can only work with you.
Well, the accountability it's both sides of the coin. Right. The accountability for the compliance with PCI is your point of sale system and whomever they are partnering with for this back end, your payment processors attached to that, your merchant services account. They all have to go through certified assessments, right? For their software, their platforms, their technology that it gets deployed on, all of that stuff. The other side of the coin is you inside as the business. And it's this, and we see it all the time. Had a meeting 2 weeks ago with somebody that was taking credit cards. And I said, when was the last assessment that you had for your payment card? Oh, we completed that. No problem. We pass every time. We've been doing it for 17 years. I said, oh, did your IT provider do that with you? And her answer was, what do you mean? Why would they do that with me? And I had to pause for a minute and realize that what they were doing was going through and checking a bunch of boxes with, at that time, it was a trust wave sort of thing that they had to go through. But they weren't actually doing the things inside the business. They didn't have their network segmented. They didn't have IT involved to answer technical questions in the SAQ. They just submitted that and assumed that they were compliant. And after the discovery, and we do this assessment with them, they were deficient in like 25 different technical controls. They had no policies and procedures. And the bad news was I had to share with them that the way they answered their cyber insurance application, they were in default. And if something did happen, their cyber insurance would not pay for a claim. It would have to come all out of pocket because they would have considered that defrauding the application process. And so one begets the next, right? I mean, it's a cascading effect, but there are two sides to that coin, the solution and your business. And very few organizations fully understand that until they've had somebody deep in conversation explain it, right? And I'm sure you get into this with your customers, like this solution, you still have other stuff to, I've seen you do it, talk to people this way, right? So, but it's interesting how many people, they get that stamp of approval when the new system gets installed and the sales rep tells them, yeah, you're compliant. You're totally compliant with this solution. And that's the little part, with this solution.
Yeah.
They leave out the other part that, oh yeah, you have like 50 or 60 other things you're supposed to do inside your business that actually make you PCI compliant, not just our point of sale system.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up this episode number 3 around the misconceptions about payment processing. Thank you again, Keith, for giving us your wisdom and sharing that with the audience. If any of you have questions about point of sale systems or payment processing, you want to get more intelligent about that or understand what you've got, reach out to Keith. You can get a hold of him at his email address is keith@gopaysuite.com. If you have questions on the technology and the PCI compliance side for your organization, our team is here to help you if you need it. You can get a hold of us at gofurther@convergencenetworks.com. Thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next episode.